You are listening to Conversations with the Citizen.
This is Conversations with the Citizen. I'm your host, Tia Carol Jones. I'm here today with Ingrid LaVon. Ingrid LaVon is a corporate strategist, author, and celebrity CFO. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tia. Thanks for having me.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh gosh, so you mentioned Celebrity CFO, and what most people don't know is I've actually been doing numbers since I was 6 years old. My family quickly realized that was not only something that I loved doing, but it was actually a gift.
Oh, okay.
And so when you think about a 6-year-old doing numbers, what does that look like? Well, in our family, it looked like Big Mama having several different things happening in our household, including selling dinners and babysitting and all types of activity. And it meant that I was the one that helped her figure out how much money she was going to make on a daily basis. And she actually caught me by accident. She had lined up several different containers of food that she was going to distribute to the local post office behind the house. And I was counting the containers. And of course, true Big Mama fashion, girl, get away from my stuff. Are you touching the people's food? They got to eat it. And I said, no, ma'am, I'm counting the containers. She said, well, why would you be doing that? I said, because I want to see how much money you're going to make today. And she said, what? She said, well, how much is Big Mama going to make? And I did the math, and that was the start of me in a career in numbers. 20 years in business finance. I've worked for 2 major corporations in my life, managed up to $1 billion in top line revenue. And now I have the opportunity not only to take those expertise to, I like to call them micro businesses, not small businesses,
Okay.
but micro businesses with 20 or less employees, but also to take the same concept that big corporations use and implement them to celebrities that need to keep money, especially during the pandemic when you talk about making sure that people survive and thrive through something we've never been through before. The foundation of how we do that is truly through financial awareness, not only personal finance, but on the business finance side. And so while many people have taken the opportunity to think about and reinvent themselves, I've been able to insert my passion and expertise into everyday lives in saying you got to save more, you got to make more than you spend, you have to make sure that you're making the money work for you, you have to have more money coming in than money going out. Just basic things that we knew, but now we were actually sat down to figure all those things out.
Talk to me about your work as a senior talent manager. How did you get into that line of work?
Oh gosh, so I was just sharing this story with, I teach business finance classes every week, and I was sharing, it wasn't even a story, honestly, it's a testimony. In 2015, I was going through a divorce, but I had always run my own business, and I've always been consistent with, before social media was social media, I was very active in LinkedIn. And so I tell business owners, don't sleep on LinkedIn. Yeah, Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff is great, but LinkedIn is the cornerstone of where people truly do make money and share ideas. And so I just kept my LinkedIn profile updated, and I was in LA, as a matter of fact, with a client, and I got a LinkedIn message, and it was from Dr. Lynn Richardson, and it simply said, hey girl, we haven't talked in almost 20 years, but I see what you're doing, and we would like to fly you to LA to speak to some people about how to make more money in their business. And I'm thinking, is this fake? This is like LinkedIn message, but I knew it was her. And so we talked live, and in December of 2015, I flew to LA, and I kind of knew but didn't know what I was walking into, but I walked into the room, and it was one of our legends, one of our icons, company, MC Light, sitting at the table like, hey girl, in her infamous voice. And I'm like, oh my God. So now in my head, I'm thinking, I'm here to make money, but I'm here with the person that I've admired and seen on TV and, jammed to her tunes. And I had to get it together real quick because I'm like, okay, I'm here in business. And we talked, and Tia, here I am now 6 years later, a little black girl, finance, business finance, only corporate experience, leveraged that into a world that I knew nothing about. But was welcomed with open arms, and now have worked with not only her organization, her company, but many celebrities, particularly from the 90s era, that were building and pivoting from being 90s rappers and entertainers to moguls and business owners. And so they have been able to leverage my expertise and not go from DJing and rapping, but now on TV and acting and voiceovers and things of that nature, clothing lines and all sorts of things. And I'm excited that I was instrumental in doing that. And as a talent manager, it was me, my role was to really not only go on the road when they were performing, but I was the money collector, and I made sure that the deals were profitable. I reviewed the contracts and the terms and conditions. And so again, everything that I did in a corporate setting, I utilized that experience and that knowledge, and I put it into their world, and I forced them to think and look at their business different, because most entertainers and actors in that space, and industry people, they look at their life as, I'm an entertainer. But what I teach them is that you are a walking business. You are a brand before brands were brands. And so once they understand that there are other aspects of their life that they can monetize, they get super excited. And then they don't feel so much stress about, I was in the 90s, or I was a 2000 hit, or I haven't had a hit in 10 years. Because now their hit is that clothing line. That hit is that show that you see them on a repeated basis. And they are comfortable with having families, and then, you know, and it's really been rewarding to get into that space.
Why did you want to use your experience in finance to help people?
Honestly, Tia, I didn't know any other way. I know that I've been told that I'm a giver, and sometimes I give to a fault. I knew also that the knowledge that I had was limited. There are brilliant people in the marketplace, people that are running multi-billion-dollar organizations, but guess who they always need? Somebody that knows the numbers. It doesn't matter if you're starting a business with $100 in your pocket, or if you're starting a business with $1 million investment. At the end of the day, that $100 can become $1 million, and that $1 million can become $100 if you don't manage it correctly. And so I felt like it was just my duty. Like, that's my purpose. That's why I'm here. And I'll be looking at numbers when I'm 90 years old.
What is the one thing you wish people knew when it comes to personal finance?
I wish that we, particularly Black and brown people, would start early. And when I say start early, I'm talking out the womb.
Okay.
That means as a child, we didn't talk about that in my family. Now, I saw it. And the difference in my family is I saw it. My grandfather migrated to Chicago in the 30s. So he was a part of that great migration from Louisiana to Chicago on up to California. He got off the bus in Chicago, and the rest of my family kept on to California. So everybody knows that story. But I saw him spend less than what he made. And when I say spend less, I mean he was basically cheap. Let me be honest, he was cheap. That's what it was. But I saw him in action. But I also saw my grandmother on the opposite side. So now you have two dichotomies trying to build a household and a family. One person not spending anything, and one person almost spending everything. You learn the balance. But what I wish is that I would have had the conversation about why I'm seeing what I'm seeing, and how do we invest, and how do we start, and how to keep your credit clean. Lord have mercy, right? And so you get 30 years old and you're now battling credit issues. And so if we had an opportunity to start early in the education, implementing personal financial education into the educational system, it's paramount. So you can have a smart kid, but they broke. You have a smart kid with a 200 credit score. Like, that just doesn't go together. And so if we were to start early in the educational system, teaching our kids in the education system, teaching the parents, us being more active collectively as a community, we would see many, many, many wealthy families from their children and going forward, in that space. That's really what I wish. I also wish personally that I would have started doing what I was teaching early. Because it's one thing to help a business make more money, but it's like the pastor. You can teach what the Bible says, but are you really living the Bible? And so I started later than I would have wanted to, and actually executing the advice that I was given these businesses. And now it's working. It's like, go figure, Ingrid. The proof was in the pudding.
Okay.
But I wish personally I would have done for myself what I was doing for other people.
Okay. How can someone create a stimulus from the stimulus check they've received from the government?
Oh gosh, so the stimulus has been a hot topic for the last the last year.
Yes.
Right? How many stimulus checks have we had? I don't know, 2 in the last year, but I remember when the first one, in 2008, remember that stimulus? I think it might have been $300, $400 during the Obama administration. And then the Trump administration did one, and then Biden, that administration just showed out with this stimulus, right? Everybody is like stimulus on steroids. Mm-hmm. And so when you look at the average, they produce some statistics that the average household is receiving $3,200 in stimulus money, and many of them have never seen that type of money before. Mm-hmm. And so what you have is the perfect storm of people that have never seen it, but people that now have it, and you want to try to prevent the lottery effect. And I don't know if you know what the lottery effect is, but the person that went from having nothing at all to winning $4 million in the lottery, and then 6 years later, they're back to where they started, homeless. And so from the stimulus, what I've been preaching and telling folks is, one, pay yourself. Mm-hmm. If it's money that you didn't count on, money that you may not get again, matter of fact, you won't get it again because there are no more stimulus checks coming. Pay yourself. Take a percentage, even if it's just 10%, whether it's $1,400 or $6,000, take 10% and put it to the side. We all know what mattress money looks like. This thing's not hard. We all had money under the mattress growing up. And so you take 10% and you put it to the side. And that is seed money for whatever you want to do. And then you invest in yourself. Figure out what you want to do. I know we were talking prior to the podcast starting, but the last 11 months have been trying. They've been frustrating, but it's also been exhilarating because we have found time that we have been squandering in areas that we probably would not have been doing. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to go back to the way life was. I'm excited about where life is going. I don't want to go back to the pace I was moving in. I don't want to stay in this pace, but I think that there's a happy balance of knowing what can be because I found time. And so this is the time to figure out what is your next. What does that look like? Stop looking at where you are right now and envision what can life possibly be like in a much better place. And whatever that looks like, start to invest in it. If that means relocating, start looking at homes in another city. If that means going back to school, you've been talking about it for 23 years. Girl, I'm going to go back and get that master's degree. Go back and do it. Because now you're going to have the time. Mm-hmm. If that means starting a business, you can start a business with less than $200. Good skills, faith, fortitude, a website, GoDaddy, Fiverr, $5 for a logo. There's so many ways to do that. Invest in yourself. And then the last one, which I was on another interview and they were laughing so hard when I said, and save yourself. Mm-hmm. Because here's the thing. So often we look for other people to save us. And we not only look, we wait. Mm-hmm. We wait for someone to leave us something. We wait for that promotion. We wait for that job increase. We are always waiting. But if you take the initiative to save yourself, and save yourself means I'm going to be intentional about my actions. I'm going to be intentional about my network. I'm going to be intentional about where I spend my mind space. Because your mind can play tricks on you. I know everybody heard that song. Your mind is playing tricks on you. Your mind can play tricks on you. Your mind can tell you things that can happen, but most of the time our mind tells us things that we can't do. Mm-hmm. And so start really changing your mind space and being intentional about that. And when you start to do that, you truly can save yourself.
What are some tips people can put? Oh, what are some tips for people so they can put themselves in a better financial situation?
Oh, okay. So the first thing I say is figure out what you're good at. What are your strengths? So I identified and came up with this analysis last year that I've been teaching my businesses, my clients, even my larger clients that come to me. We go back to the basics and we do the old school SWOT analysis that I remixed. And so everybody knows what SWOT analysis is: your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Well, my SWOT analysis is like the SWAT, like the guys that jump out the truck and they save you. It's strengths, weaknesses, assets, and threats. And I say assets because people don't leverage what they own, because we never take a look at it. So when you look at your strengths, what are you good at? What are your unique attributes? What do people call on you? What would you do for free if you didn't have to work? Those are strengths. What advice are you always given time and time again? Monetize it. What are your strengths? And when you combine that with your assets, what you owe and who you owe, because you got to know who you owe, because we all owe somebody something, and what you own, that becomes your superpower. And that is where you invest. That is where you start the business. That's where the money resides. The money resides in the strengths, and what you're good at. And I don't spend a whole lot of time on my weaknesses. I mean, we all have them, but that's not where I start businesses. And the reason why most businesses fail is because they spend too much time on what they don't have and not what they do have.
Okay.
So by doing a quick analysis and then looking at your threats, the threats are those things that are going to happen. Failure is going to happen. Anything you do, there's going to be failure as a part of the process. But if you accept that failure is going to happen and you figure out how to navigate both financially what failure looks like and emotionally, because most of the time we can get over the money loss. We can't get over the fact that we lost because nobody likes to lose. But when you start to think about how can I fail fast as possible, what are other threats that I can create mitigation plans? So we all need a personal mitigation plan. If this don't work, then what will work? And if that don't work, then what will work? Always having some type of plan in case. And so by doing like those types of things, as you can see, I'm very process driven, but it's very solid, right? You think about strengths, everybody's good at something. You think about weaknesses, yeah, there's some things that I don't know how to do, things that I don't want to do. Yeah, there are some things that I owe, and there are some people that I owe, but there are things that I own. And then, of course, understanding your threats.
How can someone start a business while working full-time?
So I have been doing that I celebrated 10 years this year. I have worked a full-time job as a corporate controller. At the height of that role, I was managing the entire West Coast operations for Xerox Corporation, and that was probably about $750 million in top-line revenue while running my business. But let me tell you, my business has pivoted and grown. So when people were talking about pivot, you don't use pivot. Pivot is not the new word. We've been doing it. It was just a different thing back then. But pivot should be a part of your strategy. And so I've been doing this for almost 10 years, and it's evolved and pivoted and whatever you want to call it. But it started in which the capacity that I could handle. So never bite off more than you can chew. And so if you are working a full-time job, you assess, what is my time? What is my availability to start and run a profitable business? Because nobody wants a broke business. We can't have broke businesses. So if you're going to have a real job, then at least have the second thing making some money. And so what does that look like? And that's spending a little bit of time in crafting that out. I tell people, if you're going to have a side job, let it be something that comes natural to you. Don't go out and start a company that's completely different than what you already do, especially if you don't have the resources or the time. Because things that comes naturally to you are those things that you'll do, again, whether you're paid for or not. And so I started doing professional development seminars and networking events because that was what I did. And it was easy, and it was simple, and it was seamless. And so during the day, I would be, traveling or running, doing numbers and profit and loss statements and balance sheets and income statements and variance analysis and all that geeky stuff that you do in finance. And at night, I would have 20, 30 women of color in a room talking about how we can promote one another. And from there, it started out as a nonprofit, and then it led to me doing professional development, true professional development, and helping people advance in their career. Now, keep in mind, I was also advancing in my career at the same time. So I wasn't giving them anything that, like the secrets to the sauce. I was doing the work. And then after I did the work, I would show them how I did the work. And then that pivoted to, in 2017, that was 7 years in, again, going through the divorce. Also, my role was outsourced to Guatemala. Okay. Go figure. They were sending the finance operation to Guatemala. And they asked me, well, do you want to move to Rochester, New York and do that? I'm like, no. This little black girl staying right here in Chicago. I would relocate, but like Rochester, New York was just not top on my list. And so I decided to stay. And that was the best decision that I made in my career. For the first time, because I've been working since I was 15. My first job was at McDonald's. My mother changed the birth date on my birth certificate. Back then you could just kind of white it out and recopy it. She changed the year that I was born so that I could get my first job because I really wanted to work. And so I've been working since I was 15. And outside of having my son, I had never not worked. Okay. And so that was the best 2 years of my life. I took 2 years off corporate work. And I just dug my heels into my business, and that's when I was able to go to LA and work with celebrities and build my business. And I got clients, small business clients that were generating anywhere from $100,000 a year to a few million a year, all minority-owned businesses, because that is my focus. I've helped the big boys make the money, and so now I want to take that and help minority businesses. So my niche is I help minority businesses. All my clients are people of color, and mostly women of color. And so I did that. And so now I'm now back in corporate, and I did it. When something is for you, it just kind of lands in your lap. I didn't interview for the job. I was in a restaurant. A girl saw me. Hey, I've been following you. Again, she saw LinkedIn. It's LinkedIn is, I don't know, I guess I should just probably place a bet on LinkedIn. But she's like, I've been following you on LinkedIn, and everybody knew the CFO with the blonde hair, the black girl with the blonde hair, and so she picked me out in the restaurant. And she goes, you know what, I know you've been doing your thing, but I think I have a job for you. And I'm like, I'm not looking for a job. Right. I'm actually here to meet a client to sign. He was late, didn't show up, so it was all God. And it was so funny, and so ended up back in corporate, and so I still now have the ability to do my corporate job. But on the weekends, you have to give up something. If you're going to have a full-time job and run a business, there's sacrifice. And so I sacrifice my weekends often. I sacrifice 3 nights a week. So Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, I'm either teaching or consulting with clients at night, after 6 o'clock. And so there's a sacrifice, but it can be done. And when you create a plan and you work that plan, the sacrifice doesn't seem so great. And so I say that to anyone that has a full-time job and looking to generate more income, because honestly, that's the way of life. You can't put all your eggs in one basket. You have to have multiple streams of income, whether it's baking cookies, selling cakes, selling chicken dinners like Big Mama did, whether it's writing a book, whether it's speaking, whatever it is, you need to have multiple ways to make money so that when one fails, you can still live. You can still pay your rent. You can still go out to eat if you want to. Like, you just need a plan, because that's truly the plan to wealth. All wealthy people have 8 to 10 revenue streams that are making millions of dollars per stream. And so while my clients may not necessarily all be in that space, we can definitely get you $2,000 and $3,000 a month over 2 and 3 streams. Think about that. $2,000 a month, and you had 2 or 3 revenue streams, and you still had a full-time job. Think about that. That's wealth. And it's doable. And it's possible. You just have to be willing to dig in your hands, invest in yourself, sacrifice the time, the sleep for a period, and go for it.
What is the Decade Planner, and how can it help people with achieving their goals?
So the Decade Planner, I'm a serial entrepreneur, or a serial creator. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's a better word, serial creator. Like, I know that finance is my core. That is what I do. But I also love to help people in different ways, because not everybody thinks in a very methodical, process-driven way that I do. And plus, I was trained that way. I'm an old GE employee, if I mention that, and I worked under the Jack Welch era. So if anybody knows anything about Jack Welch, it was all about Six Sigma, Lean Six Sigma. I'm black belt certified. I can process map anything, anytime, anywhere, any place. That's how my brain thinks. And so I've been doing that since, in my 20s. So when I look at the way people can do things better, it's always in steps. And everybody was talking about getting ready for the new decade, and I kept hearing this. I heard several different places and spaces, and I'm a journaler. As you can see, I journal everything. I keep my journal with me, all my notes and things. And I was looking, I'm like, there's nothing on the market that allows me to plan in anything greater than 2 years. Because I got goals, right? And my goals will not, I'm smart enough to know that some of the goals that I have won't happen in 2 years. They won't happen in 3 years. Some of it is just a seed. And there was nothing on the market. Well, if there's nothing on the market, let's create it. And so I created, actually brought one here so you can see it. It's the Decade Planner. And it allows you to plan over a 10-year period. And it's by steps. So I'm trying to open it really quick so you can look at it, because you may want to ask me some questions about it. And so I developed it so that people could get excited about what the future holds. And so at the very beginning, it gives you some inspiration, but then it takes you into year one, and it gives you steps. And so it talks about your vision, so you can create your vision board on paper, and then it has micro goals. Because the reason why most people stop and aren't successful is because they get frustrated with the process. But if you think and take big goals and chunk them down by 12 weeks or 3 months, it seems more palatable. And you kind of can see the forest for the trees, per se. And so I had, I'm like, okay, I'm going to help people think about what are some of their goals in 3-month increments. And then we're going to break it down into self-care, self-improvement, and self-management. Self-care is, how am I taking care of myself? Because we spend so much time taking care of other people that we forget about ourselves. And I'm not talking about you guys, I'm talking about me. I have not always done a great job in taking care of myself in the midst of trying to be the caregiver for everyone else, to a fault, and most of us are in that space. Self-improvement is, what am I doing to be better? Whether it's investing in a class or listening to a podcast or reading a book, what are my self-improvement goals? And then finally, self-management. What can I work on? Because, and for me, self-management is, okay, Ingrid, calm down. Like, how can I control myself, right? And that's more of self-control. If you want to lose weight, you got to eat healthy. Like, whatever that looks like. And so I put it all into a planner, and you're able to manage it that way. And I called someone in Atlanta, another black-owned business, and I told her what I wanted to do, and she goes, I've never seen this before. I'm like, well, we're going to create it together. And her mind is so brilliant. Like, I had all the ideas, but I said, I want you to put it in this way. And she goes, okay, I've never seen it before, but I think we can do it. And that is the byproduct. And then, of course, it went to market in February, but then everybody stopped talking about the decade, and they were like, we just got to make it through the day. Like, this is the pandemic, Ingrid. And so we shelved producing the Decade Planner probably for about 9 months. And then just in the last 30 days, more people, because now people are like, I'm coming out of this pandemic, I got to plan my life again. Right. And so now we're going to go back into production. We have a 5-year planner. And then I do have the robust 10-year planner. So the one you have in your hand is actually the 5-year planner.
And then, so how important is it to have a community of people that you can look to help you with some of your visions?
It's critical. Oh my God. Because sometimes, you know, you'll talk yourself out of things that you should do, and if you have a good network of people that are smart in their own expertise, they'll give you great advice. But then you can talk yourself into some things that you shouldn't be doing. And oftentimes I'm more of the Ingrid, get off the ledge. So that's my network is like, come on, pull back, girl. You have a lot on your plate. You sure you want to take that on? Because I'm the girl that will take on too much. And so we all have to have people that'll speak life into us, that'll be honest. We have some friends that'll just go along to get along, but then you need that friend that will say, now you know that wasn't right, or you know you shouldn't have done that. And I definitely need a good balance of those. And then you need people that have been or are where you're going. And most oftentimes we get afraid to be around people that are smarter than us. I'm like, do you all understand that billionaires, most of them have the most brilliant minds around them? It's not because their mind is so brilliant. They were smart enough to hire the brilliant minds.
Right.
And so your success is a sum total, truly, of the people that are around you. So the more successful people that are around you, and I'm not just talking money, it could be in health, it could be in relationships. You can be single and hang around a very healthy marriage, and that is a vision of where you want to be. Or you can be in a situation where I'm just barely making it, but I'm gonna hang around people that's successful in their career. Well, that aspires you to go forward. So as long as you have great people around you that can be visions and also be honest, because we all have faults, and just because you're successful in an area doesn't mean you don't need somebody else as well. Just having an authentic two-way street relationship where both are giving and both are getting. Most of us don't have getting and giving relationships. It's like, oh, I can get over here, but I got to give over here. It's more important to have more two-way relationships than anything.
Who inspires you and why?
So many people inspire me. I can tell you that my mom, before she passed, like, that was my girl. She was like my cheerleader. Like, now, she would cheer me on probably when I should have been like, let me stop doing this. And she'd be like, no, you can do it anyway. But she inspired me because when people ask me, well, how do you have the capacity to work 2 jobs or 3 jobs and I have a husband, I have a 10-year-old, I have friends, I'm a part of organizations, I travel. And I'm like, that's the life I know. I grew up as an only child with a single parent. My mom has, as long as I knew her, she worked 2 jobs. So it was just natural for us to do that. Her second job, she was a receptionist for a major corporation. Before she passed, she was paralegal. So I saw her work her way up. But she also worked at TJ Maxx from 5 to 9. So I saw the grind. My uncle, my family inspires me. I think about my uncle. Imagine being in 3rd grade and you walking into the classroom and your substitute teacher is your uncle. And you have to call him by your last name. Good morning, Mr. Sturgis. And I'm thinking, I can't call him Uncle Bert, you know? So so I've seen this. You know, my grandfather, before he passed, when we were going through his stuff, this dude has stocks and bonds. He had a 6th grade education. I'm like, where did he even know this? But because I'm assuming he must have been around a network of people that knew more than he did. Because how could a man with 6th grade education know anything about stocks and bonds? And so when I look at all of those things, I'm inspired by my family for doing all the things that they did. I'm inspired by my friends because they're all wonderful and we all fail together. And I know people always expect you to say, well, I'm inspired by these big names. I'm inspired by the businesses that I help every day. Because guess what? They invest in themselves. They want to do more. They want to make more. They want to live more. And anybody that can take their hard-earned money and pay me to help them with something, I'm inspired by them more so than I'm inspired by anything else. So my inspiration truly comes from the result of seeing people succeed and where they want to be.
What is the best advice you've received, and who did it come from?
So many pieces of advice along the way. Two people. The first one is my grandmother. And I remember not knowing what this meant. And she had, I think I'm going to write a book of sayings of what my grandmother said. But she always said, don't take no wooden nickels. And I'm like, what? What do you mean don't take, what? A nickel is, And so fast forward, I understand that the wooden nickel was don't take any advice from people that haven't applied the advice.
Oh.
Don't follow people in a place where you wouldn't want to be embarrassed about. Don't say things that you can't own up to in public. Don't do things that you would be ashamed of. That's what the wooden nickel was. And so it's funny now I catch myself telling my son that, of course, you talking, I don't even know what generation he is, what ZZ or whatever it's called. He's like, what nickels? And so that was that advice. The second great piece of advice is I had a mentor, and we still stay in touch today. My first major corporate role was with General Electric Company. I was the only black female, the only black, white guys, first regional sales VP, mid-20s. And my president was Italian, and he was the true Italian. As a matter of fact, he was Tommy Mottola's first cousin. I don't know if you guys, Tommy Mottola was Mariah Carey's ex-husband, blah, 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 blah. Tommy Mottola started Mariah Carey's career. Well, Benny Mottola was my boss.
Okay.
And he told me, he said, this is before you couldn't, would get in trouble for having certain conversations in the office, of course. He said, you're black, you're female, you're smart, and you're not bad looking. Use all four to get where you want in life. He said, not one is more important than the other. But when you combine the total of all of them, that is what will get you there. Never let anybody talk down to you because you're a woman, or because you're black, or because you're female. He said, or because you may look better than someone else. He said, you use everything in your arsenal to get to where you want to be. And that was 20 years ago, from a guy that did not look like me. And I appreciated that advice, because now I tell my son, don't let nobody tell you what you can't do. Even if these teachers are shocked when you say you want to be president of a major division or you're going to do this, so what? People don't believe what they've never seen.
Right.
I said, so you make them a believer. I said, we are now living in a time where my grandfather never thought he'd see the first black president. We never thought we'd see the first black female president. We never thought we'd live through a pandemic. Like, there are just so, and we never thought that we would see all of the unrest in this highly sensitive racial time. But guess what? We are in it, and we can get through it. But we have to have that solid advice and that foundation to make sure that happens. So don't take no wood nickels.
Before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Well, first I want to thank you guys. This was fun. I love it here. I love what Citizen stands for. I love the fact that it is community, because community is truly where profitability resides. It is where people can get access to resources, to information, to stand together, to understand who you are and what you are, but what you can become. And so, thank you. The second thing is, understand that the way life is today can be different if you change your mind. If you just think about, close your eyes and envision whatever that looks like. How do I want to live my life in 5 years or 10 years? And talk yourself into it, not out of it. Talk yourself into a better life. Talk yourself into more money. Talk yourself into being on TV or writing a book or having that business or just doing nothing. I'm looking forward to the day where I'm on the beach with a martini and doing absolutely nothing. Maybe talking to a few clients on the cell phone. I see that. I'm manifesting that. But start to really invest in your business. Get the foundations of finance. Get the knowledge, because the wealth and the information does not come from a great logo and a great slogan and a great marketing piece. It comes through understanding and the application of basic financial terms and conditions, and understanding how and why you need to have profit over revenue. Everybody like revenue, right? That's the money you make. You sell something, you get something. That's your price times the units that you sell. Now we're doing finance class, right? That's the price times. But the profit, that is where investment happens. That is where reinvestment happens. There's where innovation happens. That's where creativity happens. That's where growth happens at the bottom line. And so even if you don't have a business, you need to start one. Start a business yesterday. If you have a business and you're running a broke business, get with me, because we only do profit over here. This is where money resides. And so I'm happy that you guys thought enough of that topic to invest in that conversation, because this is one of the conversations I believe should be had more in different spaces than some of the other things.
Where can people go to find out more about you?
Oh my God, you can go to Profit Now, go figure, right? ProfitNowCFO.com. That's www.profitnowcfo.com. You can follow me on Instagram at I am Ingrid LaVon. And if you want to see all the fun stuff that I do, you can go to IngridLaVon.com.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Remember to make plans to join us again next week for Conversations with the Citizen, the place where real news can be heard.